I never thought that I would sing and play guitar in front of a couple hundred people. I never thought that I would go in a ring and fight somebody in front of however many people. And I never thought that I would quit my nursing job. I thought I was going to die from old age over there until retirement. And I mean, again, it's fantastical, but you just have to execute, like, and that's the whole thing with Bitcoin. Like,
hi everyone, welcome to the Foster Inclusion Podcast, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host, Saida Gomez Fleury. I got a new beat. Thanks to this month's guest, the multi-talented Sherwin Maxino. As you can hear, Sherwin produces music, and he was a boxer, and now a young retired nurse embarking on a fantastical journey exploring Bitcoin across borders. Born and raised in New York, Sherwin is moving to the Philippines to begin Bitcoin mining. Join us as we discuss his multidisciplinary background, Bitcoin beyond borders, and embarking on a new career path. I hope you'll feel inspired after listening to our discussion. As Sherwin says, all you have to do is execute. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at Sherwin Maxino. That's SherwinMaxino, where you'll get updates on his progress and a link to his YouTube channel where he'll be documenting his journey.
awesome.
So, Sherwin, how are you this morning?
I'm all right, Saida. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. For our audience, can you give a brief intro, your background, where you're from?
Yeah. I guess for everyone at home, my name is Sherwin Maxino. Professionally, I was a nurse, and I've retired since then. I also did a bunch of other things before nursing. I competed in the amateurs in boxing, and I also used to do music, among other things. But that's who I am. I was born in New York, here in the United States, but I'm leaving. I'm going to the Philippines. I have dual citizenship, and that's where I'll be starting the next chapter of my life, all Bitcoin related, Bitcoin mining.
Bitcoin mining. Can I just say though, you were so cute. Why would you want to box? Your mom must have been like, no.
Yeah. So let's talk about boxing. I love it. When I was growing up, we have a famous boxer in the Philippines, Manny Pacquiao. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
of
if you know
course.
him. Yeah, I think he's a big inspiration to what he did in boxing, and I always aspired to do as such. I always thought of what can I do and what more can I do, because he does so many things. I mean, he's a boxer now. He's into politics. I think he's running for presidency over there, and that was the whole idea. I mean, as far as boxing goes, I got into it because I used to be like super shy growing up. Like, I think 20 years ago, I'd be like, what? He's on a podcast?
Yeah, I hear you.
But like, these were like, these like self interventions. And I was just kind of like, okay, I'm too shy. I got to do something about that. I like work so bad under pressure. I got to do something about that. And that was one of those things, which bleeds over into what I'm going to be doing with Bitcoin.
That's amazing. It's
Yeah.
I relate. I was a shy kid as well. It's funny because like I'd be shy, and then I played a lot of sports. I played basketball and volleyball. I was on a skipping team. And it's like as soon as I got into action and movement, I was no longer shy. Like I was really
Yeah.
in the moment, present. I loved being around my teammates, but then in social situations, sometimes I just like freeze up thinking like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. Like,
Yeah, no, it's definitely something like, like when like I think every time I do something that's out of my element, like coming on this podcast, I think it just flickers by my mind really quick, and it's kind of just like, well, you did harder things before, you fought people in the ring. And then, like, when I'm like leaving the United States, when I'm starting a whole new career, jumping into Bitcoin, like, buying your first sats, that always just goes through my mind. It's like, oh, you've done harder things. So I took that from the boxing experience.
yeah, totally. So boxing, nursing, music, what was your orange pill moment? Like, how did these things, or did they lead you to Bitcoin?
Yeah, I would say all of these things eventually led me down this road. So I explained the boxing bit, but for music wise, I was in this band, and we got pretty limited success here in New York in the early
Nice.
2000s. But I think the whole idea for music was kind of more for like philanthropy, like bringing awareness to like certain subjects. And
Mm.
that's why we did music. And then, like, I do it now just like as a hobby, but it was like more to address certain things, bring awareness to suicide prevention and all those kinds of things. Cancer. We used to play at those kinds of um, events. And like, when Bitcoin came around, it was kind of like, that's what it is, like that's how to change the world without, like, I don't know, COVID like really did a number. And like, at the time I was working on material to go back on the scene and start uh presenting my work out there. But when COVID hit, it was kind of like, gotta find a different way. And also, yeah, it was just a little stressful at the job, being a nurse. So it was kind of a way to find something more sustainable,
Yeah.
something to do in the longer run. I mean, whether or not any of us believe that COVID exists or anything like that, I mean, I was there and I saw what I saw. And I mean, there was some drastic and significant changes, but whether or not it's real or not, I mean, it was, I think it was scary for us all, when I think it's still scary for most of us, even until now.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be working in a hospital as a nurse,
Yeah,
especially at the beginning when there was a lot more uncertainty.
yeah. Um, like, I think it was like, there was one night where we had 8 people die in one night. And well, I did night shift. We There was 8 people that died in a span of 12 hours. So that's kind of
Yeah.
it's like,
Wow.
it's a little more than one person every other hour. And like, that was when it was kind of like, okay, I got to find something else. This is not what I want to do for another 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, 20, 30 years,
Yeah.
And that's where I got into investing at first, stocks, which led me down the rabbit hole. The
The
rabbit hole.
rabbit hole. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Totally.
yeah,
So I know that, okay, right now, especially with, all of the hype surrounding the truckers in Canada and stuff, this whole rhetoric of, is Bitcoin about, like, I hate to say this, but is it white supremacy? Is it this? Is it that? Like, that's coming to the surface again. But most of
right.
us who have been in Bitcoin for even just a few months and who understand, we know that it's truly borderless. That's a tough word for me to say with my missing tooth. I'll try that again. Borderless. And so borderless obviously means, like, in the traditional sense, no geographic like boundaries or whatever. And I also think like borderless also means it transcends ideology. It transcends like so many different things. But there still is like an image of a Bitcoin maximalist. So in your opinion, what is Bitcoin maximalism?
Okay, I would say in the most technical sense, I would say it's just somebody that puts most of their net worth into the Bitcoin asset. I mean, I know there's so much that comes along with it, and like, I guess the most politically correct definition of it would be Bitcoin is personal. You know, you make it your own.
Yeah.
And,
nice answer.
feel like a politician. But you know, I know that there's so much that comes with it. I know, like, you know, there's so much faces that we see over and over again. I know that there's a diet that everybody is all about. I know that there's you know, there's so many stances on all of this, but no, I think it transcends all of that. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's a decentralization aspect. I mean, you could whine and do all you want, kick and scream, but I mean, you know, if a vegan comes aboard, I mean, you can't stop them. Bitcoin is for everyone. Bitcoin can be utilized by anybody and any nation and anything. But I just like to stick with its most purest form. That just you just put most of your your net worth into the asset. That's it.
Yeah. I have, in general, I have a tough time with like putting people into boxes and defining people and humans, because I find that we're not consistent within ourselves. This whole question of like carnivore or vegan. I recently did an episode with Rohan Smith. He is vegan. He's Jamaican, based in Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago. And he was speaking to me about, is it called regenerative farming? And the whole process of using like I guess everything that's natural, animals and stuff, as opposed to like tilling the soil. And he really opened up my mind, because for me, veganism, like, I viewed it in just one way. And I'm kind of starting to believe that it's really about like being holistic as opposed to processed. You know, like this discussion, I think we're all different. I enjoy eating meat and stuff, but I think that this okay. This whole, some people get offended when I say that, but you know, this is who I am as an individual. I'm not saying everyone has to, but I think that for me, Bitcoin maximalism means that I'm not messing with any other coins. I was curious. I started in 2017. I looked into things. Wonderful. I bought a few other coins, and then I just got rid of them because they're not for me, you know? But in terms of all the rest of it, like diet and stuff, the biggest takeaway that Bitcoin has given me in other aspects of my life is this whole concept of fiat by decree. So like if the government says that candies and candy bars and sugar can be sold, it's legal, it's good for you, they've put their stamp of approval by decree, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's for me. So like that's an angle that I'm exploring more when it comes to like Bitcoin maximalism. And I'm really trying to stay out of this political debate because it seems to be getting quite hot.
Yeah, I agree. Like lately on Bitcoin Twitter, I feel that it's you're right. It's a tense climate. I don't want to say something that would get anybody mad. I mean, obviously there will be things that does that, but I mean, especially in such a sensitive time like this. We're on the brink of war, and I don't know. I don't want to say too much on.
Yeah,
I just
totally.
wish everybody's safe.
Yeah, safe and healthy, totally.
Yeah.
So your parents are from the Philippines,
Yes.
and you are working on your dual citizenship, and you intend to move there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
Yeah, so actually it's a two-parter. The first part is when I was born, I didn't know it at the time. Well, I'm a baby, of course, but at the time when I was born, my mother was already a naturalized American, but my father was a Filipino still. He got naturalized the year after, and which actually made me a dual citizen by birth.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, which is how this is all allowed to happen just by chance. And the thing is that they were supposed to report this to the Philippine embassy, which they never did. They're here in America. They're here in America. They don't care, and I get it. And I when I was looking into all of this. So yeah, the consulate over here said that I was already dual, and I just
Oh,
was just
sweet.
missing the paperwork. So I have since done that, and that's finished. And the only thing that I'm waiting for now is my passport, which should arrive as soon as March 1st or March
Oh,
28th. Yes, that's pretty soon. And I can't wait to get started on these Bitcoin mining farms. I quit my job. I think it's been 2 months now, and I'm just kind
wow.
of I need to do something.
Yeah, get the ball rolling. So
Yeah,
just before we go more into your new adventure in the Philippines, can you tell the audience, or can you give the audience a brief overview of the Philippines, where it's located, what the people are
yeah,
like?
sure. So believe it or not, the Philippines, I would say it's lesser known to most people than your main uh, Asian countries, China, Japan, Korea. Everybody knows those, but sometimes when you mention Philippines, it's a little off to the side. It's in Southeast Asia, and it's a tropical climate. Sorry. Sorry. Let me say that again. That came out so weird. it's
It's all
it's
good.
it's a tropical climate, and it's made up of I don't even know. I think something I don't know. Don't quote me on this. I think it was 700 or 2,000 islands, and I mean
Yeah.
yeah. And my parents were from the second largest city in the Philippines, Cebu City, and I think again, don't quote me on this, but I think that's where the country in Asia that uses English the most. So
Okay.
I've been there quite a couple of times. The last time was right before the pandemic, like 2 weeks before the pandemic hit,
Wow.
and kind of wish I got stuck there.
Nice
But
weather and sunlight.
exactly, tropical, and it's a very nice country, but it's a third world country, and I aim to go over there and give people jobs, provide cheaper electricity, build
Nice.
infrastructure, all the good things, and I don't know. I hope they're accepting of it because Bitcoin comes along with it, and we'll see how they react to it. As far as I hear, Bitcoin isn't too popular over there, so
Okay.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
So, So is no, I'm going to sound so ignorant. And in
No,
Toronto,
ask
where I
it.
grew up, there's a large Filipino community.
uh,
What's the main language of the Philippines?
yeah. So the main language over there is Tagalog.
Tagalog.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's a language. It's a dialect. There's so many dialects. I think there's like eight main dialects over there, and I understand three of them
Oh, wow.
because
That's
well,
good.
to varying degrees. Because the national one is Tagalog, but my dad and his family have one called Cebuano, and my mom and her family have one called Waray. And I like if I try to say a sentence, I think I can, but I'll like choose words from each of the three, and it'll be a mess. But yeah.
That's awesome. So, so you said that Bitcoin isn't super popular right now in the Philippines. Do you have a general sense of how it's perceived, or how people would sort of be more accepting of it?
I think okay, so I definitely think it's ripe for the taking because I'm sorry I'm spewing a whole bunch of Philippine facts here, but I
Oh, that's
also think
good.
it's the I think it's also the texting capital of the world, if I'm not mistaken. So that means everybody has phones. I mean, you have people that don't even have slippers, but they have phones, and it's kind of like a flip flop. You have people that like, and when I go over there, sometimes I'm shocked. I'm just like, oh my god, all these people have phones in the middle of nowhere, and like, yeah. So I think that it's right for the taking. Like infrastructure wise, like I think everybody can do this. I just think it's a little hard for them to maybe understand, and or the people that I've spoken to are like kind of in my age bracket where they've maybe gotten in around like 2017. Maybe they started mining at that time or whatever with graphics cards and whatever. But I think after that major correction, I think most of them got out.
Oh,
But I don't think they understood. And this is again, I'm sorry, Filipinos, but I don't think they understood the value, the like what it's meant for. I think maybe they just saw it as a plainly as a digital currency that you trade, but it's so much more than that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And what do you see Bitcoin doing in terms of like the way people live? Like, is there a large remittance market from,
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know if you use this term with the Philippines, but people from the diaspora sending money back to the Philippines, or like trade or commerce between different countries?
Right. So yeah, definitely. It's funny because when shout out to Jack Mallers, but when when he did that speech at the Bitcoin conference last year, I showed it to my dad, and my dad was just wow, like that was his orange pill moment, when because
Nice.
he would be sending money back all the time when my mom and dad lived here before they retired. And that was his orange pill moment. He was questioning, yeah, why does Western Union take so much fees and such and such and such, and why do we have to export our citizens out to other countries? And these were like hard hitting questions for him, and um, you know, I feel like every day as a Bitcoiner, you have like that like crack in your old system, that the crack in the vase, and it's kind of just like you kind of deconstruct yourself and you build yourself back up. And I mean, it is quite a process, but it's definitely rewarding. You learn so much about yourself and why we think the way we think.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's that whole deconstruction in that, wait a minute, like that, those
Yeah.
moments are just, they're quite frequent and unexpected.
Right.
So I haven't done that many shows. I do them once a month, and I've interviewed people from Taiwan, Ashley Chen, Cal Casa from Ethiopia, Rohan from Jamaica, like every person who lives in the global south or third world country or developing country, however you want to frame it, or even not even developing, because Taiwan is quite sophisticated, but just not part of like, you know, the Western
Right.
sort of culture. They
Yeah.
always speak about remittance as being like an amazing use case for Bitcoin. And like I've traveled to many countries, countries on the African continent. I volunteered in South Africa in Limpopo province with this amazing women's initiative. And that was before Bitcoin really clicked in my brain. And I thought to myself, like, one of the key issues that is not being addressed for these women is banking, like legitimate banking where they are self-sovereign, where they're not relying on a third party, be it like a volunteer institution or some other organization to help them. And it's amazing how either if we've lived through these cases or if we've been exposed to people living through this, how Bitcoin clicks so much faster and we don't get caught up in certain sort of superficial debates about Bitcoin.
Right. Right. And like, well, first of all, you are very well traveled. Good job. I mean, that's like you're like which continent haven't you gone? I mean, minus Antarctica. Which have you been to all or
No, I haven't been to Australia.
okay, neither have I.
Um, and I've been to Central America. Actually, speaking of which, I'll be in El
Okay.
Salvador in April.
Wow. I'm planning a trip there myself, but I think maybe more towards the end of the year, probably. But you're gonna visit El Zante and such.
Staying in El Zante. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so
Congrats.
excited with my husband and my daughter. She's 2, and
Hmm.
like it's I mean,
Yeah.
I gave birth like 6 months before COVID. So like
Uh-huh.
obviously when I was pregnant, we went to Santorini in Greece,
Uh-huh.
and then back to Toronto to see my family. But since my daughter's birth, we went down south to France, which isn't very far.
Hmm.
And that's it. So this is like our first like big family trip together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And like I can't wait to hear your experiences with how everything is over there and using Lightning to for payments and do you have a podcast scheduled for out there? Like will you be doing a podcast out there?
Well, we'll see. I've reached out to a few people and asked if I can like visit. I
Yeah.
think I can say this because it's not like anything like major or anything, but I got in contact with La Casa del Bitcoin,
Mhm.
the project that Paxful is putting together. So
Okay.
I'm going to visit their educational center and take notes and just like, yeah, go to learn and observe and stuff. I'd
Wonderful.
like to visit with Bitcoin Beach. I think his name is Michael. I forget his last name, but just to like, he was on the Jimmy Song podcast in January. And I don't want to go too much off course, but Jimmy Song interviewed him and he described the transformation of young people in El Salvador before Bitcoin and after Bitcoin, because he's been there for quite some time. And I just found the episode to be so incredibly inspirational because it's like for the first time in a long time, young people, middle-aged people, older people have something legitimate and sound to look forward to.
Hmm.
There's no anticipation of some kind of rug pull. Like they are really building businesses, big, small, medium, around the Bitcoin ecosystem. And to me personally, I think that if we are able to adopt Bitcoin itself, the network, the currency, but also the mindset of low time preference to a lot of the things we do, we'll just see incredible positive changes in our society.
Right. And the numbers definitely speak for themselves, right? I think the number was 10.3% GDP increase. That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I think that's like, I think that's one of the things that I really liked, you know, going in, like, you know, it was so accessible to anybody. Anybody can participate. And I think it's so amazing to have, for example, El Salvador start this, because, you know, like when hasn't it been America or Europe? You know, like it's kind of amazing to see El Salvador start that, because it gives way for every other country to try and do that. You know, third world countries, first world countries, anybody, and it just opens up the floodgates.
Yeah, totally. So in the Philippines, like, so remittance cases and Bitcoin mining that you're going to start there, that's another avenue to at least spark curiosity for new people to the ecosystem.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm still figuring out the energy, the source, because I was thinking of solar, and I think I might start with solar. I mean, definitely. I mean, I want to go as far as I can with it. If nuclear is it, you know what I'm saying? But I think definitely I would have to get the government involved when it comes to something like that. So I think I would have to just start with something small, just have something to show, and just make good relations from the get-go, just so that I can further it. And you know, I think as much as it is about Bitcoin, it's also you know, doing something for the Philippine people. Growing up, I was like one of those bratty kids, like spoiled kids that was that was kind of just like, you know, like, oh, mom, dad, can you stop talking about the Philippines? And like, you know, whatever it is now, 30 years later or such, it's kind of just like Jesus, like, you know, like I can't believe how small-minded I was, and like how Bitcoin just makes you grow, you know. And like I can't wait to go there and spend X amount of years. I mean, I don't even know. The plan is indefinite at this point. I don't know how many years I'm going to be there. I don't know if I'll ever return to the United States. I don't know. Those are like a whole bunch of big questions. But like I can't wait to get this started and do something. And because I have the opportunity with my dual citizenship, I mean, there's just so much that can be done. I mean, I can live there for however long I want. I mean, I can even run for office if I even wanted to. So maybe we'll have the second Bitcoin president. We don't know. We don't know. That's not off the table yet. I just want to see how everything goes first.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I hear you 100% about how like you mentioned, you know, how you thought of like the Philippines or your parents speaking about it when you were a kid versus now. I had a very similar experience with my father, who's like super low time preference. Like he was very much into gold and silver when I was growing up, and he would always say to me stuff like, there's nothing wrong with being frugal. No, we're not going to spend money on this. No, you're not going to eat this. Your mom is going to cook real food at home. And at the time, like, you know, as a kid, I wanted McDonald's or whatever.
Me too.
Right? Like
McDonald's deprived children right here. Yes.
Yeah, totally. Or like, so my parents are from Trinidad. So my mom used to make the best roti and curry chicken. Like my mouth is watering now. I would do anything to have that now, but at the time, or like she'd like pack my lunch and I'd take it to school for lunchtime, but I'd be so embarrassed by the smell because all of my other friends at school were like their parents, even if they were first generation Canadian, their parents were from like the UK or like I think one or two had parents from France, like they were very European. And with my age, they weren't used to those types of smells back then. And so I'd be like, sort of like hiding my lunch and like kind of eating, and people would be like, what's that smell? And I'm like, nothing.
Yeah. No,
But with
I'm like, it's just so crazy how our society. Oh my God. I think like with the previous podcast that I was on and now on this podcast, like it may sound like I'm an anarchist and maybe a little, but like I feel like society just skews the information so much, because like for you and I, we were able to pass that barrier, but there's just like there's just so much out there. And like, it definitely, Bitcoin being so global in its presence, like like I think that this is an important factor. Like if 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 I wasn't into Bitcoin as I am now, I don't think that I would actually move to the Philippines. I don't think like I don't think I would have the guts to. But Bitcoin like allowed me to expand my bubble. Like I feel like if I wasn't into Bitcoin, I would never take this much of a leap. But because I like so many aspects of Bitcoin, I think that's what made me think like, like, oh my God, like imagine globe trekking, imagine being a nomad. Essentially you can. I mean, there's so much of us that are like, oh yeah, we're sovereign from maybe the banks. No, I want to be sovereign from the states. Like, I want to like just hop around everywhere all the time with my sovereign money. And like, like I would put it best as maybe like being a pirate of sorts. I don't know, like you're not connected to any nation, and you just go and do as you please on the high seas. And that's kind of, I never envisioned that for my life, but that's kind of what Bitcoin has led me down to. It's very strange. I don't know.
It's pretty cool.
Transformative.
So, it is transformative. So what does your family think overall, or like close friends that you grew up with?
Okay, so that's a really great question, by the way. Because I like these personal questions, because we can always talk about what is Bitcoin, how does mining work.
And that's my bias, because I love to get to know people and why or how they got to Bitcoin. Like I find that we're human, and there's so much like richness in our human stories and experiences. The technicals I love too. We can go there if you want, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Hashtag Bitcoin is personal, right? Okay, but no, well, sorry. The question was, again, I'm sorry.
Sorry, your friends and family, what they think.
Oh yes, yeah. Okay, so like when I had mentioned because like that's the thing, like like I think growing up I was like spoiled. I was like super structured, very rigid. Like my ideas were like so set, and then like when Bitcoin came along, it like demolished everything, and it wasn't easy, but it was fun. It was kind of like, oh man, like like this is such a new way of thinking. Like I mean, prior to Bitcoin, I was one of those that like trusted my government, like 100%. And like I worked for the government. I was a nurse for the government for almost a decade. And I mean that's not to say that I don't trust them. I mean, I have faith that there's that there's something beyond that. But when I told my mom and dad initially, when I told my sisters, when I told my friends, all of them were like, "You're joking, right?" Because I mean, it just sounds so fantastical. Like it almost sounds like a movie plot. You just quit your job, you leave your country that you grew up in, you're starting an energy company that mines money that you can't see. And like, like I think my circle initially was just like initially like taken aback. They were like, dude, are you having like a midlife crisis? and, and like I was just like, no, like, like I've been so passionate about so many different things in my life, and it was just never enough just to spectate. It was never enough just to like music. I had to make a band and become an artist. But it was never enough to just watch Manny Pacquiao on TV. I had to become a boxer myself, even just to some limited capacity. And now, in this sense, which is why, like, I feel like I have the skill sets that I've made over time and experience, where it's kind of like, okay, let's get serious about something. Let's scope in. And for Bitcoin, that was that. And I think people think it's fantastical. And to that, I say, yes, it is fantastical. Yeah. It's fantastical because Bitcoin allows you to do that. You think something is impossible until you do it. And like, like all of them now are like asking me, so you're still going on with this plan? And I'm just like, yeah. And they're just like, I can't believe this. I still can't believe it. They'll be like, I believe it when you go. And I'm like, my passport's coming next month.
Wow. So, so talk more about the process of it, because I asked you the personal stuff, but now sort of the more procedural aspects of it. How, like, what steps have you taken and what steps still need to be taken to like see this through?
Yeah. Okay. So initially, I think the biggest scare was whether or not I would be able to actually do this, whether or not the circumstances of being born as a dual citizen can let me do this. And as the events transpired, yes, I am a dual citizen by birth. So that was number one. Number two, this passport, I definitely need, if I am to travel there back and forth, to live there indefinitely, whatever it is, all the tax purposes, everything, to have a business, to own land, to run for office, all these things are part of that. And I think we'll know in like less than a week now, or so, or maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we'll find out. And when that stuff arrives, so that's like pending. And like I kind of wish it was a little faster, but then again, like I think I'm like at this like place where this was like such a last minute life change where I'm kind of a little more patient with everybody else around me, because it's kind of like, okay, I changed my life on a whim. I can't expect everybody to just like, be super accommodating to that. So that's that part, which is, I would say, almost done. And then when I get to the Philippines, I mean, there's obviously the whole getting acclimated to, but I mean, to me, that's never really been a problem. I feel pretty adaptable almost all the time. But the research that has gone into mining, I feel like when I get there, I'm going to just like prototype it first, make like the super smallest version of this possible.
Yep. So you can iterate. Yeah.
Correct. Like how many, if I'm going solar, which I think I am, how many solar panels will it take to support how many miners? And just the bare minimum version of that. Okay. So like, let's just say, I don't know, 2 solar panels support X amount of miners. And then like, I'll work with that. And then when that's done, then I'll just, FOMO in, basically, go all in. I mean, like as in everything, life savings, everything.
As opposed to fundraising, because There are different
Okay.
platforms you can use for fundraising depending on
I was thinking of that, and I think in time there will come a time for that. But I kind of just want to prove it to myself first. I told my mom and dad
yeah.
to just give me like 1 to 2 years to just try this out, which I think we'll definitely know how this is going after the first year. And I think what's going to end up happening here is that I don't want to get too far into it, but basically, as a Bitcoiner, if I should invest in something, I would not. If I'm to invest fiat in something, um, like how we buy Bitcoin, I would want my returns to be in Bitcoin, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
of
we
course.
are Bitcoiners after all. So I haven't figured this part out yet, and I don't know how the Philippines will take to it or the laws or anything like that. But yes, I am thinking of getting uh, investors, but I would return that back in Bitcoin. So if you invest with my company, yes, you will be profiting in Bitcoin. You will be earning Bitcoin. How we're gonna do all this, we'll find out.
Yeah, totally, totally. It's pretty exciting because like even the business climate there, like whether you need community buy-in in addition to sorry, in addition to all like the relevant local laws for that type of business, which community members do you have to appeal to? I'm guessing based on experience, not in the Philippines, but all of that, it can be an adventure. And it's sometimes it's the soft things that make a big difference in the long term in terms of your
Yeah.
operations.
Speaking of like buy-in from the Philippine people, I definitely think there is. Like based on my research, the Philippines is not um, sovereign in their electricity, their power grid.
Oh,
Um, yes. So believe it or not, I believe China is the major stakeholder of the entire Philippine power grid. I think they own something like 40 something percent. So long story short, what does that mean to the Philippine people? That means that if there's ever a conflict, which there very well could be, between China and the rest of the world, China could just essentially turn off all the Philippines' power just like that. I mean, that is not safe. I mean, the Philippine government has already recognized that as a problem, and that's where I step in. And I hope they
wow.
hear me out. So I hope that's buy-in from the government.
And but a 40% stakeholder position is, like the Chinese government would have significant bargaining power with that kind of
Yes.
position. And China officially has banned, mining, even though underground mining still exists in China. So
Mm-hmm.
do you foresee any like issues, or do you have an approach to get around that?
Yeah. So actually, the Philippines seems to be accepting at this point in time. I think their stock market wants in, and actually, I think. Well, I'm not entirely sure, but I mean that is a question that some people ask me, and I mean, worst case scenario, I mean, I do have dual citizenship. I mean, I'll just I'll just pack
Borderless.
up borderless, pack up all my minors and be like, where to next? Let's get triple citizenship, like
Yeah.
um and like, like I mean we'll see. I mean it could even be a return to the United States and like continue mining operations over here. And I mean, again, it's just so exciting. Like, like if prior to Bitcoin, I'd be like, no, this sounds like too much of a headache. But like being a Bitcoiner is kind of like, yeah, like I think being on the run would kind of be fun, being, being a global fugitive
Yeah.
to support the network. A pirate.
A pirate or El Salvador, you never know. I think they're
Yeah,
still
yeah. I'll see you
offering
there.
yeah, citizenship. I think it's if you have 2 coins, I think you can get citizenship. So
Yep. I mean, I would like to comment, but I feel like it would definitely release my position. So
oh
I
yeah.
but yes, very much a possibility. A possibility. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I say that in terms of also planning, right? So
Yes.
whatever you have today, you may not have tomorrow. You could have like a boating accident or something. So like with future earnings,
Yes.
you could
Yes. Yes.
convert the equivalent of 2 coins to obtain
There we go.
citizenship.
Thank you, Freda. Thank you.
I'm full of doo-doo sometimes. So,
Yes.
so are there any types of like resources or anything that you would need to help you on this journey?
Okay, so actually, you mean resources as in like, like resource people, like that I would like learn from or something?
Yeah, tangible, financial. You said that you're not going to do fundraising, but tangible. So
Yeah.
like property, equipment, or anything, or human resources, or anything.
Yeah, actually, yes. So initially I'm bootstrapping it, right? But in the long term, yes, to all of the plebs that I'm mutual friends with on Bitcoin Twitter,
Yeah.
if you are interested, initially I'm not making it into a company, not just yet. I just want to make the smallest prototype of this. But when it's time to
Yeah.
scale, when things are in place, if you're, I don't know, if you repair ASIC miners, if you
Yeah.
are a good marketer, whatever. I mean, yes, I definitely need you. I would love to hire you, especially if we've known each other for a long time on Bitcoin Twitter, and reach out to me. Definitely. All of the people that are into ASIC miners that produce them, sell them, please reach out to me. For the people that produce equipment as far as energy production goes, reach out to me. I definitely, this is we're trying to hyper Bitcoinize the world here, and I definitely welcome everybody on board.
Awesome. Well, Sherwin, such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have like any final words or anything you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
Yeah, like I guess my final thing would be that again, going back to this fantastical idea, like, it's only fantastical until you actually do it, like, and it doesn't have to be Bitcoin related, like, I'm pretty sure for you, before you started this podcast, you were like, what? Am I really doing this? Am I really starting a podcast? Am I really going to be interviewing people from all around the globe?
I was scared out of my mind. Like, I can't even tell you. I was like almost hiding under my desk because I'm like, someone could see me. Like, what am I doing? Yeah, you're 100% right.
So it's only fantastical until you do it, and then when you do it, yeah, it's fantastical because it is fantastic. You accomplish something that you never thought that you would do. I never thought that I would sing and play guitar in front of a couple hundred people. I never thought that I would go in a ring and fight somebody in front of however many people. And I never thought that I would quit my nursing job. I thought I was going to die from old age over there until retirement. And I mean, again, it's fantastical, but you just have to execute, like, and that's the whole thing with Bitcoin. Like, whether you're a beginner or seasoned in Bitcoin, I mean, all you have to do is just execute. If you're scared, just put a small amount, just buy some Bitcoin and see what it does for you. And again, in a few years, I mean, your returns might just be that. It might just be fantastical.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
It might be fantastical.
Yeah.
Very nice. And one last time, where can we find you on social media?
As of now, twitter.com/Sherwin Maxino. That's SherwinMaxino. No spaces, no dots, nothing like that. And soon I will be expanding into Bitcoin YouTube, if that exists again. But that's where you'll be finding a little more vlogging type stuff, I guess, where I'll be like, okay, today we're going to set up a solar panel, and you'll see me out in the Philippines. I don't know, probably on a roof and like trying to do this. But and I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be a pretty fun experience for all of us, and I think it'll deconstruct to the whole mystery behind it, and hopefully it opens up the whole thing to a whole bunch more people. And I hope that it does good for the Philippines. My intentions are good, and I hope that it works over there for the country and for the globe. I hope that I can affect that change. I hope so.
Nice. Thank you, Sherwin.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for listening to this episode. Be sure to check out Sherwin on Twitter at Sherwin Maxino. That's SherwinMaxino. And follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Foster Inclusion. FosterInclusion. You can also follow me on my personal Twitter at Saida Gomez, SaidahGomez, or Z for my American friends. Bye!